peace and love. Welcome back to Tunjitalks, the home of I Have a Thirst. And remember, family, it is winning season forever and always. Right, so let me take you through what we will be discussing today in I Have a Thirst. So I'm going to give you an update, going to talk about Exhale, talk about Grant Cardone, a comment that someone left on a video. We'll briefly talk about Severance. We'll talk about the next 100 years of Disney. We'll talk about UFC 276, in particular the criticism that Israel Adesanya has received. And yeah, that will be it. So let's get started. It's been a while. Right, so today we are drinking Appletiser. Got this out of the freezer, so it should be nice and cool. For the ASMR, ooh, pour the drink. Lovely. Right. Fizz. Ooh. Oh, by the way, if you haven't got yourself a drink, pause the video now and get yourself a drink. Welcome back. So, what is I Have a Thirst? That is where you join me. I have a drink. I discuss the drink. We chop it up, family. So, enjoy your drink. Cheers. Appletiser, it's quite refreshing, it's quite crisp, and it's got a bit of fizz, so it's not too bad. Would I recommend Appletiser? Yeah, it's a decent drink in the summer, especially once it's chilled. Oh, it's beautiful. So let's get started. So an update, what have I been up to recently? Well, so I went to Parliament recently, the House of Parliament. It's free to go to the House of Parliament, actually. I didn't know that beforehand, but it's free. It's good. I went on the day that Boris announced he'll be leaving 10 Downing Street. So on that day, there were journalists everywhere, and the place was just buzzing. I have some videos of me walking around Westminster that day. So if you want to see that, let me know down in the comments, and I'll put that up on the channel. But let's focus on Parliament for a minute. So I would recommend that. So before that, I've got a global audience. I've gone through the demographics of the different countries and whatnot, so I've got a global audience. So what I would say is, wherever you are in the world, if you can go to your Parliament, if you can go to your Senate, I would highly recommend it, because I think it's important to go to the places where the laws of the land are made, and you can kind of put yourself in the politician's sort of mindset. And with Westminster, when you walk around Westminster, that place is ancient. It's literally ancient. But yeah, just good to be around where politicians make the laws of the land, and of course there are lots of tourists around the area as well. So it's really interesting to see and walk around and get a tour and get a feel for the building and a feel of the history. So I got to sit in, the House of Lords and watch the representatives in the House of Lords debate. So we were there for a while. Afterwards, the group I was with went to the Commons. We sat down and watched MPs discuss. If you want to know more details about the trip, let me know in the comments, and I'll do a specific video on that. Also, I went to the forest recently on a school trip. So we went to the forest. I recorded a video. However, the children were screaming. It's we're in the forest, that kind of thing. But being in the forest was really, I hadn't been to the forest before, but being in the forest, it's quite rejuvenating, being out in nature, and there's a solace that comes over an individual when they go in the forest. It was really interesting as well. I had to climb over trees that had fallen down, climbing over trees. That was really fun, just being out the forest floor was incredibly soft. Like, I wasn't expecting that. I don't know what I was expecting, but it was really soft and spongy. I was like, oh, and I can see why people spend loads of time in the forest. You know, being away from people, just being around nature. I don't know. It was calming. It was rejuvenating. But if you want to see that video, let me know. You'll be able to see what it was like in the forest. Really, really good day. So if you haven't been to the forest before, I mean, deep into the forest, I highly recommend you go into the forest. It was so fun, really, really fun. To support the show, there are two ways you can go about that: PayPal and Cash App. Cash App, # Tunji Talks. That's # Tunji Talks. That's # Tunji Talks. Or PayPal, paypal.me/Tunji Talks. That's paypal.me/Tunji Talks. That's paypal.me/Tunji Talks. I'll definitely like to go again for sure. Let's talk about Excel. Right, so of course you would have seen my video where I went to the BFI earlier this year for the screening of the short film I did called Exhale. And that was great, going to the BFI and watching the premiere there. So at the time the film was released on the BFI player, so I shared that with people. But since then, the film Exhale, it had a premiere on BBC4, which is a national television channel. So that was really exciting. And Exhale is currently on a BBC iPlayer at the minute. So if you're in the UK, you can watch Exhale on BBC iPlayer. I believe that will be on there for the next year or so. So if you haven't watched Excel, go and check that film out. I'll leave it down in the comments. Really a fascinating film that explores microaggression. So let's look at the Grant Cardone clip. So I'm going to play the clip now. So here it is.
Of work.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've read that book about 4 or 5 times.
Okay. I got to check it out. I haven't read it.
And sometimes what I do is, rather than reading a lot of different people, what I'll do is I'll read the same thing.
Yeah.
To make sure I got it. Sometimes the number of times over is better for me. Like I started getting real understanding as opposed to just surface.
I'm not just saying this, but that's a good thing to do for me with the 10x rule.
Yeah.
Because you're going to capture some stuff maybe you didn't see the first time through, but it also gets you in the zone.
Yeah.
It's a great book for that.
I find it interesting because in my day-to-day, I don't necessarily have time to like reread books like from beginning to end. I may reread like a certain section, but for the most part, it's like mostly a one and done. Or unless I'm like at uni or something like that, then I'll often kind of like come back to a specific text more than once to help with a debate, or to help with a seminar, or to help with me writing an essay. So here we've got a guy called Ben Taylor, who left a comment on one of my social media networks. So let's look at his comment. So he said, love this, great point. I often speed read through books and take a lot from it, but I know for a fact that there's lots that I miss when I read this way. Maybe because Grant Cardone is a billionaire, so he's got, one could argue he's got lots of time in his hands, so he can easily reread books whenever he wants to. I don't know. Do you agree with that? Do you disagree? Let me know down in the comments. But thank you to Ben. Yeah, so in our busy lives, like if we want to get through a book, we may speed read through that book. And when we speed read, we may get like a nugget here and a nugget there. However, there may be a lot of gold that we're leaving behind, a lot of nuggets. So really interesting point. So thank you, Ben. And that's what Tunji Talks is about. Like, you leave a comment, and we'll put that in a video and we'll discuss it and we'll chop it up, and and I'm sure people will leave their responses to Ben's comment or and just add to the debate. So let's talk about Severance. So 1 second. So I did a trailer reaction to Severance, and Severance is kind of like, it's a really odd sort of science fiction show that it's in a similar kind of vein to Black Mirror. And what I've noticed since the show finished its run, April, May. Since the show finished its run, I've seen people come back and look at the my trailer reaction to it. Maybe it's through word of mouth that people have been like, "Oh, have you watched Severance?" Da, da, da. And people have come to the channel to watch the trailer reaction. So let me talk about the main theme or the main issue that comes up in Severance, which is really fascinating. So this is the main theme. So in this show, these people work at a company, and if you work on a certain level, you have to get this procedure called a severance procedure. And what that is they take you into the operating theatre and they put a microchip into your brain. And what that does is it separates your personality. So when you're at work, that's all you know. You only know about work. And when you're at home, you only know about home. So when you're at work, you don't know if you have children. You don't know if you're married. You don't know if you have a mother. That sort of thing. And when you're at home, you have no idea what you're doing for 8 hours. So it's just like a fascinating concept. And I brought this up to some people, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'll happily get that procedure." And so let me know if the severance procedure was a real thing. Would you get it? When you're at home, do you want to know about your work life? That sort of thing. Let me know down in the comments. But if you haven't watched Severance, really check it out. Great acting, great story. There's more to it than the severance procedure. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time I was watching the show. Like, so good. And season 1 ends on such a nail-biting cliffhanger. I can't wait for season 2. I posted about it on Instagram, and a lot of people were talking about it. So definitely check out Severance if you haven't seen it. It's on the Apple streaming service. So if you've got Apple TV Plus, that's where you will find Severance. Right, so for you Disney fans out there, I know you've been waiting for this. So let's talk about the next 100 years of Disney. So Disney, the current CEO of Disney is a man named Bob Chapek. And earlier this year, he set out his strategy for the next 100 years of Disney. He's identified 3 pillars which are going to hold Disney up for the next 100 years. So let's talk about those. So the first pillar is storytelling. The second is innovation. And the third is a relentless focus on the audience. So let's talk about the storytelling. So one thing that Bob Chapek has started to do is he has monthly meetings with the senior creatives of the different divisions. So the head of Pixar, the head of Marvel, with the head of Disney Animation, so on and so forth. And the focus that Bob Chapek is taking is how can stories be integrated into new ways. In particular, so recently NFTs have blown up. So best believe Disney are working on how they can tell stories through NFTs. What is an NFT? So an NFT is a non-fungible token. So it's basically a digital collectible item. So for instance, you know how when you're at school, maybe people traded baseball cards or Yu-Gi-Oh cards or Pokemon cards, so on and so forth. So the idea is like instead of having the physical card, you'll have like a digital card. Now I feel the most interesting thing about NFTs is that so in the real world, if I have a Pokemon card and I sell it, once I sell it, that's it. The money I get for it, that's the end of it. However, with an NFT, once I sell an NFT, I can still get dividends, or I can still get royalties off that NFT. So if that NFT gets sold on a further 100 times, guess what? I get a little bit of the cut each time that item is sold. And when we're talking about corporations, when they sell items such as NFTs and those items get sold and on and on, the continuous kind of like dividends that can come from that for hundreds of generations, that's an exciting prospect for huge corporations. So best believe that's why all the corporations now are starting to get involved with NFTs. And in their meetings, they'll also discuss like further opportunities of how they can integrate their stories or better tell their stories. So in Disney, the best storytelling brand right now is Marvel, the MCU. And you can see that Star Wars are trying to copy the MCU model, and I'm sure other Disney executives are looking at the storytelling methods that Marvel are using and will want to incorporate that. For sure, other studios are looking to copy the MCU model. Some are doing it well, others not so much. But you know, they'll get there eventually, or they'll find their own formula, or they'll discover their own way of doing things. So let's move on to innovation. So Disney wants to be at the forefront of technology. So if you watch a show like The Mandalorian, what's really exciting is they've made this new sort of green screen. So it's like a huge igloo, and it's made up of LED screens. And on the LED screens, programmers can put up a background. And that's really exciting because it gives actors something to work off instead of using their imagination. So back in the day when you had a green screen, you know, you'd be behind green, the actor would really have to kind of like, well, that's what actors are supposed to do. They're meant to use their imagination, but this makes it a little bit easier if you can see. Instead of imagining you're in a desert, the LEDs will put up like an image of a desert. Then it just makes it easier for the actors to get into their characters, or it makes CGI look more realistic as well. And in the long run, this is cheaper. So that's one way in which Disney is innovating and using technology to enhance their products. So go back and watch The Mandalorian. Go back and watch Boba Fett. Then let's go on to a relentless focus on the audience. So of course, right now Disney has Disney Plus, their streaming service, and Disney are focused on giving their audience good quality content, and also there's a focus in terms of the theme parks and Disney cruises. So Disney are going to continue to refine Disney Plus. Disney are going to continue to refine and upgrade their theme parks. Disney are going to continue and refine the experience on their cruise ships. So this is all really exciting. The next 100 years of Disney. So let's talk about UFC 276, where Israel Adesanya fought Jared Cannonier. There was a lot of criticism about Israel Adesanya. People are calling him a boring fighter, and I don't understand because the goal in fighting is to hit without getting hit. The greatest fighter of all time, TBE, the best ever, Floyd Money Mayweather, he taught us that. He taught us that the goal is to hit without getting hit. Why? So fighters can go home to their families. So fighters can retire with all of their mental faculties intact. That's the goal. And I don't understand why people like Henry Cejudo is retired. I don't understand why he's talking. Israel Adesanya is so world class that he makes elite athletes look like amateurs. That's how phenomenal Israel Adesanya is. People don't know what to do when they're in the cage with Israel Adesanya. If you look at the fight that he had with Romero, like Romero didn't even fight because he was so discombobulated by Israel Adesanya and his unique God-given gifts. So I don't understand where that criticism is coming from. He's not a boring fighter. He's a phenomenal fighter. When I watch Israel Adesanya fight, it's almost like watching a video game character. What is boring about that? I don't understand. I think a lot of the people who are accusing Israel Adesanya of being a boring fighter are like casual fans. Let's be frank. They're not used to, because just like boxing, MMA, mixed martial arts, is a chess game. It is a chess match. So let's just leave it at that. Let me know your thoughts down below. Do you think Israel Adesanya is a boring fighter? I don't think he is, but if you do, let me know your thoughts down below. That is it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, family, it is winning season forever and always. Take care. I'll see you soon. Cheers.